Hi, Carrie. This is Lee
Hey,
with Brand Buddy. How are you doing? It's so great to have you on the show today.
hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Yeah. So we have Carrie from Helium 10. She is a fantastic brand evangelist and manager at Helium 10, which is one of the most powerful sites out there for Amazon sellers. And before joining Helium 10, she actually is a real life Amazon seller, just like you all, myself included. And we have a lot of insights here today to talk about really the behind the scenes on how to look at Amazon, how to think about your business, and how best to leverage these tools to make better decisions, get the best outcome for your business. And again, hopefully make a little bit more profit and, quicken your acceleration to success here. So, Carrie, I would love to really understand first, like what you do at Helium 10 and really what drives your work there.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a brand evangelist at Helium 10, and what my job is to basically help people understand how to use our tools. So I'll do, learn videos on our actual tools, and I'll go work with, go on podcasts and just basically tell everyone about the tools. And I'm also a seller, so I have the kind of perspective of what sellers need. So my goal and job is also to help sellers to be successful by using our tools. So that's kind of part of it. And then I also help with development of the tools
Hmm.
to make sure that the tools are things that are going to be helpful for sellers. Some people might, some companies might just put tools out just to put them out there, but we actually think about what is really important for sellers and how we can help push their business forward.
Fantastic. And so in your experience, what really gave you the source of your inspiration? Like why are you a seller? What brought you to Helium 10?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, it kind of came about by accident. My dad actually took over a skateboard company in 2015 and it was failing. And I was actually in a terrible sales job. And I remember thinking, okay, if these people are doing only $200 a month on Amazon, I can definitely figure this out because I was doing sales over the phone and I was doing way more than that in like 5 minutes. So I was like, I can do this. So I went on YouTube and I learned everything that I could about how to write a listing and how to basically sell on Amazon. And I watched like there was a series and it was, like 40 hours long. I don't know how many, it was a long series and I just watched it over and over again. I was actually dog sitting in this mansion that had a theater and I just like was in this theater for like most of the time and I was just writing notes and figuring it out. And so then I helped optimize the listings and started doing better with our skateboards. And then I started offering my services as a freelancer. So I started freelancing, optimizing listings, and people would always ask me, like, what is your secret? And I was like, well, I'm not going to tell you because I obviously was getting paid, for each one of the things I wrote. But the secret was that I was using Helium 10
Mhm.
to find keywords and then using their listing tool, which is Scribbles back then, but now it's called Listing Builder, to basically optimize the listing. And what it does, you write the copy and you weave the keywords and keyword phrases throughout. And so it basically crosses out the keywords as you make sure to write them. So I was just making sure to fully optimize with
Mhm.
SEO in that tool. So that's kind of how I started. And it's
So yeah, like when I was in seller myself in 2012, I actually used Scribbles as well. It was one of my first products for the complex B vitamin. Really having it hand hold me to look at all the different niche keywords, the variations, and then also walking through like back then it really mattered as it was in the title, in the bullets, and obviously since these recent updates at the beginning of the year, this is always a moving space. So I think having software, having the kind of cutting edge understanding of how people are searching and how to tap into that with your listings. And even like all the way down to like enhanced brand content, there's so many updates that are constantly happening. These tools become invaluable. And so, do you have a fun success story? I know you worked with a lot of clients. You have the skateboarding brand. Anyone that jumps out just in terms of a good lesson here or story of how they use the tool or how you use the tool to get a great result?
Yeah, we've had quite a few success stories, but and some people they launch a product and they'll make millions in the first year, whereas other people it's kind of a slower build. And so I think my favorite success stories are the ones who kind of build and keep going and persevering,
Mhm.
because I think that they not only develop the right skills to kind of endure any kind of obstacles, but they're kind of a longer term business.
Right.
And I think that creates a lot of success long term. And so we have a lot of tools that really help you to manage your business from A to Z. So when you're starting to find the product all the way to managing your profits, managing your ads, optimizing your listing, all of that stuff. So I like that we have tools that allow you to kind of start from not knowing anything and then, build a multi-million dollar business. We have some sellers within our elite group that are $300 million a year.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there was a guy who I talked to, and he was actually incarcerated, and then he decided to start an Amazon business when he got out,
Hmm.
and now he's at 10 million a year. I think
Hmm.
he's probably even higher than that. So there's a lot of really cool stories. There's also some moms that have decided, oh, I want to start a business from home because they didn't want to work. So one girl, she came from Nigeria, and she was making $150 a month there as an accountant. And then she decided to start selling on Amazon. So she started selling on Amazon and made about 22 million on Amazon over a few years. And then she also started selling on TikTok Shop and did 10 million her first year on TikTok Shop. She was one of the first sellers there. She kind of was able to see that was kind of up and coming. So I think those are really cool success stories of people who just, came from very humble background, and they just decided to keep going and persevere and make it.
Love it. Yeah. And having been in many of these programs, with Matt Clark, amazing. It was AMM back in the
Oh
day. I was
yeah.
watching, people hit the 1 million a month club. And, I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, comparison is the thief of not only joy, but your motivation. And like you
Hmm.
said, really just sticking at it out, because entrepreneurship is a series of setbacks and obstacles. Even my own journey, I know at one point my seller account got taken over by a Chinese
Yeah.
hacker, and then they shut down the account and I couldn't edit it, but they kicked the hacker off and they had to go through support. And so there's always these barriers and setbacks that I think sometimes delay. It took me 6 years on a side hustle, really just
Hmm.
scale it to the point where I could take money out of it. And so I think really, thinking about that long term is a fantastic teachable lesson. And also just knowing those numbers, persevering. When you look at the other side of this, what do you think are some of the common mistakes, though, that people are making when it comes to approaching this business?
I think the biggest one that I see is people think that it is going to be a passive, like get rich quick type thing. I've had people literally that I know call me and they're like, "How fast can I make $10,000?" I'm like, you're
Mhm.
gonna need
Magic
at
number.
least 10,000 to start, So I think that people have this concept or perception that this is kind of a set it and forget it type business, but it's not. It's really, you want to think about building a brand and building kind of a name that, is going to be something that's a useful product in the marketplace. And it's not just something you can just, people used to be able to be like, oh, I'm just going to like private label something. I'll get something that's already cheaply made and then
Yeah.
label it. That's not the way it is now. It's really, you need to develop a really good quality product and push it out there. It doesn't mean it has to be original. I'm in a very competitive niche, which is apparel. And so if you are able to come up with a unique position in the market, then you're able to do it. I mean, even like if you look at Liquid Death,
Mm.
they literally sell water, and I think they sold for like $1 billion or something. Or there's like a Dollar Shave Club. I think he sold that for $1 billion, and that's a basic razor, but just
Right.
kind of a twist on it and creating a brand around that. So I think that if you can approach it as you're building a brand and offering a really valuable product or service to the market, that's where you're going to see the success.
Oh yeah, and I agree. Having done my stint in even Amazon coaching, I think 10,000 is that magic number. And I think people get lost in translation here, where again, they have to think about the profit the business is generating. Let's say if I want to generate 10,000 in personal income, I need to be throwing out enough cash flow to pay for my future advertising, pay for my future costs of goods. I always tell people think 3 shipments out and then think about,
Hmm.
okay, if you're going to sell at that future level of 10,000 in personal income, let's walk you back. How many shipments, how many sales would you have to do each month to actually accelerate there? So you really understand that it is a part of a capital business, and that you're also building a brand, and that you'll pivot and change things, whether it's the logo, the design, the copy, the
Yep.
positioning. These things will take some time, but once they are set, and this is what I love about it, you don't have to change stuff. So I have had the same logo, I've had the same packaging, I've the same supplier for one of my top products, the Omega-3s algae oil, and it's just, it's very consistent. I get repeat buy, but it took a long time, and you really do have to know
Mhm.
your numbers. So great advice. I'd say, are there any other major misconceptions about Amazon tools or the FBA space that you'd love to clear up here?
Um, I think what I find interesting is when people are not using tools,
Hmm.
because some people do get lucky and they're just like, oh yeah, I don't use anything. But if you think about what they could do if they just took the data and insights that we provide, they could 10x their business easily by just looking at the data. And making data-based decisions, I think, is really smart in this business world, especially as you're expanding out to other platforms other than Amazon. You want to make those decisions based on numbers and not just a feeling, because you can really lose a lot of money based on that. So I think that's a common misconception too, is like, oh, I don't need, it's maybe not common, but I've heard it sometimes where they're like, I don't need anything. But yes, having the data and the information, because I talk to multi-million dollar sellers all the time and they use data for every single decision. So if you're not using data to make your decisions, then you're going to be behind.
Yeah, be data driven. And I think this leads us to again a lot of the trends we're seeing in 2025 where things have changed again. What are you most excited about for new sellers in this or existing and all Amazon sellers in this new day and age?
I think the most exciting thing I think is just the focus on brand building and creating quality products.
Right.
I know we have right now, currently, there's like a tariffs issue right now, but I think it's going to kind of weed out a lot of cheaper products out of
Mm.
the market, and the brands who have kind of built a solid product and a solid following, they're going to be the ones that stay. So I think it's a really good opportunity for beginners to kind of start when it's a little more challenging, and then they can build something really great. Like take this time to really set up a really firm foundation, and figure out these problems that you need to solve and kind of get ahead of them. I think it's a really good opportunity to do that, to find better places to source or diversify their manufacturing. Like we were all just going to China before, so now they've got the perspective. Oh, maybe I should diversify that, or maybe I should look at products made in the US, or just kind of, I think that's a really good opportunity for people to think differently about the business and how they can build a business that's going to stand the test of time through difficult things. So,
Oh yeah, and definitely, tariffs is shaking up the board here, especially in our industry. And I've always been fascinated with, when I would be at seller conferences, hearing how people find their suppliers, because I feel like that's the big jump. That you might have a brand, an idea, and then there's this kind of, chasm of can you find that product manufacturer to really partner with? And it can be challenging, but it eventually becomes your competitive advantage. And I think that's what you're getting to is how
yeah.
how can you turn this challenge and think, I've had an opportunity to travel to Vietnam. Vietnam is really turning into a big place. You have different
Mhm.
countries that maybe you personally have connections to. Like I had a creation business partner who was able to go into the creation market and find unique products from their market that could serve a broader market. And so I think really introspecting on, where are your advantages, but to use that to find these, trade partners and take advantage of a dynamic, fast-moving world.
Yep.
And that leads me to the next question, because there's so much noise about AI, right?
Yeah.
The next hack, will it change everything? What's your opinion on what's happening here in the AI space and how it relates to
Okay.
seller?
Maybe I'll address hacks first.
Yes, please.
Um, I think hacks are kind of fun in the moment, and there's definitely been hacks along the way that can really boost your business. But I think if you learn the time tested, marketing strategies of really focusing on the customer and appealing to your customer, especially in your listing, what is it that they want and appealing to them. Um, I think that is going to kind of stand the test of time more than a hack or trying to like push off some inventory. Like some people use these hacks to kind of just push things off real quick, or
Hmm.
make a have a big sales day. So I think that maybe the focus should be more on those strategies that are proven over time, that are 100 years old, and just same things that appeal to humans that have always appealed to them. And that's good products that they maybe identify with the brand. There's a lot of different things. So focusing on that. But then AI, there is a lot that you should definitely learn when it comes to AI. First of all, people are starting to search differently on Amazon. If you've seen Rufus, which is the when you
Yeah.
ask questions to Rufus. So people are starting to ask questions instead of maybe doing a search. So I think there was a stat that was like 10 or 15% of people are actually using that
Mhm.
currently. And so I think it's going to definitely increase quite a bit. And maybe even like things like ChatGPT, I think are going to start partnering where people are looking for products in ChatGPT and
Right.
it's directing them to the different products. So being able to understand that that's happening and how to optimize, like, look at all those questions that are on there, make sure they're all addressed in your listing, or look at maybe your biggest competitor and what questions are on their listing and how you should take those questions and put all of that information in your listing so that you can show up on those bigger searched questions.
Hmm.
But I think if you are ignoring AI, then you're probably going to fall behind because the thing about AI is you can really, you know, 100x, I guess, the things that you're doing. You can really do things a lot faster now. People are making images,
Right.
video. And so like if you're doing advertising, you can change the images super quickly and they're like lifestyle images now. And so you can do it and you can split test things that would have taken so much time because you have to, set up with a photographer again and do it again like in back in the day, I guess. But now
It's
it's all AI. So
it's
there's people who have AI agents that are managing their businesses. They're kind of training them to do all of that, just a lot of things within their business. Um, I think that it is important as a seller to start learning it. I'm kind of in the beginning stages of learning. I was just at the $1 billion Seller Summit conference in Iceland, and there was a lot of talk about AI and a lot of talk about how it's changing. And so at Helium 10, we're also kind of moving in that direction of how we can support Amazon sellers, utilizing AI. We do have some AI features already in our Cerebro, which is our keyword finder. You can filter out the keywords just using AI.
right.
So basically, I think that if you don't learn AI, you're going to be behind. So I think it's important to start learning, start getting familiar with what's out there. Um, Watch, webinars or like, just be in the forums on Amazon or go to conferences to stay up to date so that you don't fall behind and have these competitors just annihilate you.
Yeah, and to latch on one thing you said about the images, this is an example. I think of back in the day having a bag my friend who's a creative guy to take photos, and I paid him for a dinner to get my first photo shoot.
Yep.
My very, very first ones were me doing a terrible shot with terrible shadowing of the supplement bottle. And so just to think about now, like if I was in this situation, how much easier just to take that and professionalize it. And I think you have to be curious like you said, to learn these technologies, not be afraid of them, and then
Hmm.
also realize it is 0 and 1. Like to take that kind of book from Peter Thiel, it's, there's tech, and that's going to be the technology, but you still need the human element. And we're
Yeah.
still, even if we're using Rufus and AI to discover and find products, you're still selling to humans. And so I think the more you look at, like you said, using these tools to identify the questions, think about your brand positioning, your differentiation, but also how people are going to go about being curious and finding you, you're going to get a wider funnel to find more people. And when we think about Amazon, what do you think that we need more of? And what do you think we need less of? You can go either way with that.
In terms of Amazon, I think that we'll probably just need to continue, um, focused on how it's changing. So just kind of staying up to date,
Yeah.
um, constantly just being aware. In terms of more of something that people do is just looking at the basics. Even myself as a seller, I sometimes forget the basics and just going back to the basics of basic marketing. What's in it for the customer? How can we support them best? How can we make our products the best that they could possibly be so that people want to keep buying our products? So just kind of going back to those basics of what makes a really good product in business. Um, and I think that's probably what we would need more of in terms of less of in Amazon. I think less of the focus of like, get rich quick kind of thing. I think that would be the best thing because it's such
Agreed.
a, big
Doesn't serve
problem to kind
anyone.
of position it that way. It's a long-term business. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I always think about profitability and really think about knowing the quality and thinking
Mm,
about, like you said, the longevity of these businesses. And when I see the most successful sellers and brands, they can be very boring product categories or products, but they care and they're built to last and they know their numbers and they're curious using data, using tools.
mhm.
When we help brands, we use Helium 10 to help brands understand the keyword analysis. We need to understand this for advertising purposes to manage their ad budgets. So I think there's, like you said, I really look at e-commerce as a team sport. I think there's so many individual skill sets you need, and as an entrepreneur, you need to have an understanding of maybe all of them, but you don't need to be an expert in all of them. And with AI and with software and
Yeah.
with tools and the teams, you really can build this vision. But like you said, it's not something you can just set up, forget about, and walk away, and you're taking a paycheck. I think that mentality,
Yeah.
whoever do that, I think they're selling a false bill of goods, out there. And but let's
Yeah.
talk more
Can
strategy.
I go back to what you said about
Oh, please.
profitability too? Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
that's actually been a focus. My dad and I have been focused because I sell with my dad. And we've been focused on profitability, which is a huge game changer because that at the end of the day, you don't want to be working for Amazon for free. And I think a lot of brands that like sometimes there's influencers out there that are like, oh, I made $8 million in sales. But the question is, what was your profit?
Right.
Because you really have to be careful of, making sure that at the end of the day, you bring home a profit. Otherwise, what's the point? It's just basically free services to Amazon is what you're doing. So focusing on profitability, I think, is probably what people need to do more of. And I think that right now people are focusing on that because of the tariffs. And there's really looking at all the details, like where is my money going? Am I wasting any money with shipping or any kind of managing of my pay-per-click advertising? You want to look at all the different aspects of your business and make sure that you are not losing a penny, really, because you really need to make sure to have that extra cash flow for the new tariffs, or if the tariffs go up, or if there's other things that you need to pivot and pay for, then that's what you need to do. So I think that I'm glad you brought up profitability because I think that's huge.
Well, and we'll get here into your tool of Healing Tanks. I know I've used your profitability tool almost on every single one of my intro calls to help really talk with brands about what they can do with their budget, right? Because you have these A-mark products before, if they're 50% or above profit margin, great. You're doing a really easy, we can reinvest in capital. We can spend, 20, 25% of ad budget. What I found is this is an old thing from Microsoft days when I used to work with our partners. We would talk about a Deloitte study of, what was the industry best practice to spend on ads to increase your business based on, profitability and growth, that kind of tentative balance where you spend more, you're going to grow faster, but you have less profit. Where's that sweet spot per industry? And for the software industry, for software integrators, was 14%. Consumer brands that were selling not through online means was 25%. So if they would put 25% of their budget into in-store merchandising and campaigns, but they couldn't really see the closed loop data. E-commerce brands, same study, 35%. So they were able to reinvest because they knew a dollar led to a certain return, right? They had that closed loop. And so they could spend more confidently, more aggressively, but they also typically have about a 2% conversion rate. 2.12 is like the average Shopify conversion rate. So you have a lower conversion rate. Amazon, you have this 12.3 average conversion rate. So people are coming with what we call commercial intent. They're coming to buy, purchase now. And I think, like you said, when you know your numbers, you can factor your budget, which can be less on
Mhm.
Amazon, maybe 10, 15% of your gross because you're tapping into higher conversion, but you still have to
Yeah.
then factor in the 50%, the Amazon, the FBA fees.
Yeah.
So it does get a little tricky, but for someone just entering the Amazon space in 2025, what kind of advice would you give them for how to engage with your platform? And perhaps you can even walk us through
Yeah.
it a
Let me
little bit.
just, yeah, for somebody who's just getting into it, let me just share my screen here.
Beautiful.
All right. So this is when you kind of log in. One thing that I really like about Helium 10 is that we have a lot of education. And when I started, that was what I really loved about Helium 10 too, is not only the tools were amazing, but also I was learning a lot all the time. And so we actually have a whole learning hub right here. And so we have a course called Freedom Ticket that's literally included in any subscription that's paid. And we basically show you how to sell on Walmart, how to sell on Amazon. But what we were talking about earlier, we actually have expert guests that come in like for webinars, and we kind of house them all here. And one of them was about profitability and how to calculate when you should pay yourself and how much you should pay yourself. So all those little things that you don't like, we never got that before when I was
Never.
starting. So this is all really amazing stuff. We even have, an influencer boot camp on how to become an Amazon influencer, how to find influencers on Amazon for your business. We have a PPC Academy. We're actually updating that now. Something called Exit Ticket that as a beginner, you can take this course and it basically shows you how to kind of keep the mindset of I want to eventually sell my business because you're going to make the most money when you actually exit a business. So that is almost like an MBA course. And to be honest, it's with Northbound Group and it is full of information on how to think about, doing your accounting and all the little nitty gritty, all those details that if you don't have a business degree, you wouldn't really know. But you don't have to because we have it all there. So, and then we also have an academy to show how to use the tools. But when you're starting out, we've got our black box tool that helps you to find products that are potentially profitable to sell. So we have a whole database that you can filter through and find some really cool products and product ideas, and you can literally expand your brand out from there. We have keyword research tools, and this is our keyword research tools are the best in the business. And like I was saying before, people, when I was optimizing listings, I was doing this for big brands, sellers who were, just starting out, and then also brands who were selling, millions of every month. And they would always want to know what I was doing because every time I would optimize their listings, they would get way more sales. They would see exponential growth. And it's because I was using Cerebro, first of all, to do the keyword
Favorite.
research. And with Cerebro, you can filter through these keywords. There's so many great ways that you can find keywords. You could also do historical. So, say you're coming up to a Prime Day or Christmas time, you can look at any product back in the past. So, say you haven't sold during a Prime Day or a Christmas time, you can look back at Christmas last year and you can see all the keywords that your competitor was capitalizing on during that time. You can see what the search volume was during that time because it fluctuates, right? For holiday products, it's going to be a higher search volume in December, but you wouldn't know that in August when you're trying to prepare. So it gives you you're going to be ahead of the game. We also have ads, and I'm just gonna show you something on ads really quickly that I think is really cool to kind of give you an overview. And you can actually um, pull these. Uh, pull this information in without even having to start utilizing our tools. But if you go to the analytics section, you can actually see all of your campaigns in one spot. And
Mm.
it's going to kind of give you an overview of, um, you know, basically what you might need to do. So let's see. And let me actually go to another page. It's the ad manager. So I can actually pull up all the campaigns here as well. And I can see like what the ACOS is if I want to. I can see like where I'm, wasting spend. So basically you just pull all this information in and it gives you like an easy to see overview of what you're doing. And if you look at the dashboard here too, you can see like your total what you're doing already. So if you're kind of like, oh, my sales are not too good or my like right here, tacos, not good, 27%. You want it more like around 10%. So you can see that pretty quickly. Like, what is it that you need to do to, change some things around to get those things down. But so we've got a whole ads management platform. That's just kind of like tip the iceberg there, but it's really cool because it makes it easy to see what's working and what's not. And then there's also rules that you can set up to kind of like, basically um, adjust bids in bulk. So you don't have to go one
Yeah.
by one on there. But yeah, we have a listing builder. This is another tool that I used. This is the newest version. We have AI to help you write,
Mhm.
and then also add in the keywords that you do with the research. So we've got listing builder, and again, this was my secret weapon that I'm now happy to share with everyone. But when I was, competing as a copywriter, I didn't want to share that.
So
Um,
our trade
so
secrets, I feel you.
yeah, exactly. So we have a keyword tracker so you can track where your keywords are ranked. I mean, literally we have from A to Z everything you need, profits management, packaging stuff like product inserts. We can help you with that. And we have all the learning that you need within the tool. Every single tool, like if I go to Cerebro, this is our most popular tool.
Yeah.
This is our keyword research tool. If you want to learn how to use it, you can click on Cerebro training and we have all these videos on how to use it. You can also go to our YouTube channel, and for every tool, we pretty much have like a masterclass. So you can search masterclass and whatever the name of the tool is, or you can just search masterclass on our YouTube channel, and there's masterclasses on strategies that'll help you with, keyword research or product research or anything that you need. So it's really, an A to Z offering. And the cool thing about starting with Helium 10 is that you're starting with the tool that you can use until you're in advanced. So it's beginner to advanced, whereas some other tools that are like competitors, they maybe only really cater to beginners. And that makes it hard because they usually have to jump to our tool and they have to learn something all over again. Whereas if you start with Helium 10, then you're just going to be able to keep going all the way
Be a
through.
lifer. Like
Yeah.
me,
And
I wish we had the exit strategy and the freedom. I mean, these are things I would go to trainings and learn about, and you feel like they kind of, like you said, that secret of the, person out there saying, "Oh, I make X in sales," but then the real secret is how much in profit and are they taking money out of it? And I think having that and then being able to back into where, okay, now how do I make that work? How do I write my header, keyword optimize? I mean, Cerebro has been my favorite forever to
yeah.
analyze and look at. And then also keyword tracking, really understanding like where are you getting the search and then the paid performance. I think you said the A to Z component here is what makes, for me, Helium 10 stand out. And you have been in the game for so long. I mean, it's just, you guys continually evolve. It's really cool. I would say, when I'm looking at, I think we talked about some of the red flags, like, not expecting instant success and knowing your numbers. But when we're looking at particularly like product research, and even when you're able to go back in time and kind of see the seasonal trends or where the opportunity lies, what are some like red flags or green flags, any kind of things you're looking for when you think about new products, or just from your experiences, how you think about, product research and getting a new product live?
Um, there's a bunch of different ways, and there isn't necessarily like a one way, one size fits all, but I will kind of highlight some things that I think for a beginner are really important to know. First of all, electronics can be really tricky unless you're kind of in the engineering type space. I've seen people get an entire container full of products that were electrical, they don't work.
Right.
So that's a tricky one if you're just starting out. But if you're, I have seen people who are really kind of technical and they've done a really great job, you know,
Mm.
launching those types of products. Things that are breakable. There was one lady who had this like beautiful decorative bowl that she had, and she put it in a very flimsy box with no styrofoam or anything to kind of pack it and make sure it didn't break. And so she had all these sales like right off the bat, tons of sales. And she just literally had all returns because they all arrived broken. So that is, super important. You also want to, I would say you're minimally looking for products that sell for at least $25. And that might actually be higher now with the tariffs, mainly because when you think about the cost of production, and then you got to ship it, and then you've got to, send it to the warehouses in Amazon once it lands in the US or wherever, whatever country. You're paying Amazon a referral fee for being able to list your products on their site. And then there's also a fulfillment, picking, packing, and shipping fee. And all that really can add up to about 50% of your total sales. And so, along with advertising, when you really and that's kind of like, you want to still make sure you're having a profit, but that can be a big part of your revenue every month. So you want to make sure that you're pricing things correctly to be able to have enough money to market and, pay all those fees that are in there. And so I'm trying, I think I lost my train of thought here.
Oh,
Uh,
no worries, but I
but
agree with that price high and justify. And in terms, like you said, what are these things to
oh
identify?
yeah,
And even I think of, you say, the product quality electronics, being careful for new
yeah.
entrepreneurs can be very tricky. I have an old client that we took them really quick sales, and they were selling hair dryers, and the hair dryers were lighting on fire. We're like 14%
Yeah.
return defect rate.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've noticed is people, if you're just kind of putting it in a plastic bag,
Mm.
like there's
Yeah.
Amazon requires you to put your products in these plastic bags for most of products, anyways.
Right.
Um, if they just receive a plastic bag with a shirt in it or something and it doesn't look very nice, they're probably going to be more likely to return it. And so when you're looking at products, you actually want to look at packaging too and make sure that you're kind of providing an experience for people like unboxing almost the product and they never want to
Yes.
return it. I actually was talking to a guy the other day and he has these really cool picture frames, but they didn't come with any instructions and they were kind of like in pieces and there was no instructions, there's no branding. It was just kind of like basically the made in China box.
Right.
And so he was getting a lot of returns, and that is a huge part of why. So you want to look at that. Look how you can build a brand, and when you're starting with one product, like how can you expand it? So
Mm.
can you have, can you build a brand around that particular product, keep expanding it, or is it kind of a one brand type product? You want to kind of think about these things at the beginning. But I think the biggest thing is just going back to the profitability, making sure that you're finding something. Also, just find products that you understand the niche a little bit more.
Mm.
That doesn't mean it has to be like your favorite thing ever, but like for example, I have a friend who did really, really well because he found a hole in the market for automotive, and he basically was able to make something that cost like $1,500 to get it fixed at the dealership to he was selling this product for like $300 or $400 depending on the thing, and he made YouTube videos to show how to install it. And so he was making money all day because $1,500 compared to his $300 or $400, like that was a no-brainer for all these people.
Right.
So he knew though that that was a hole in the market. He knew that that was something that would make money. Whereas if I were to go to automotive, I would be clueless. I wouldn't really know what to do. I wouldn't even know how to tell people how to install it. So if you understand the market, it's going to help you. There was another lady who did live selling with craft stuff,
Hmm.
And so basically she knew what was missing in the market. She started creating these things that people wanted and demoing them on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that stuff, and was able to get those kind of. So if you think about things that maybe you're like, oh, I wish there was something like this. If you've ever thought about that, you should write those things down and think about ways that you can kind of create products around it. Like even Sarah Blakely, she literally cut the feet off pantyhose and now she's a billion dollar business. It's the things like that. And so thinking about ways that you can make things better, or even take a simple product and brand it better, like water or a razor, like we talked
Enhance
about
life.
earlier. Those are really important things to think about when you're looking at products. But I think I touched on all the things like,
It's great. Yeah.
try not to do breakable electronics when you're first starting out, especially on your first product. Get the hang of the whole process because you're going to learn a lot on the first product. You're going to learn so much because there's so much that you don't know. Although we have the education that can try to help prevent a lot of issues, there still might be things that happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Something you said that stuck out for me too is just, thinking about how to add more products or how to change, think about that brand. Or I have a question my CEO always asks, what in the last 12 months, what are the newest profit centers you've added to your business? And that can be so simple. I mean, it can be like a 3-pack. We had a soap brand that was
Hmm.
selling 1-pack and they packaged it like into the box into an inner. So they had a 3-pack. So they didn't even have to change the way they manufactured it. They just put an FN SKU on it and it became a 3-pack they could sell. Now Amazon makes it even easier. You can just do this on the back end with the way they collect and create, multi-units. And that became their top seller and the top profit per sale. And so little things can even add and give you more to sell. And then the unboxing one and packaging. I mean, that's just such a great content creator and a great experience. I even think of myself, I had to finally throw away my Apple things that I've been holding. Like, I don't know why I still have all my boxes, but I'm like,
Yeah, I
I'm
do
like,
too.
I just need to get rid of these. Like, what's wrong with me? But like that experience and the attachment, it elevates your brand. And I always
Hmm.
think of this story of this guy who sold he was a chef and he made expensive dog treats. And then he would package them really well. So like the markup was incredible and he could sell like 2 or 3 a day and make $100
Hmm.
profit that he was taking out. And so just really thinking about, like you said, the detail, the customer experience, adding profits, really great. So overall, what's the message to your audience really for, again, this is such a challenging business, I think, in many ways, like entrepreneurship in general, but like just the setbacks and the building and the learning, for anyone who's kind of burnout or overwhelmed, what kind of message do you have for them on how they can take the step forward and what they might do, even with Helium 10 to kind of gain clarity and get going with their business again?
Potentially that maybe join a networking group of sorts. We actually have one at Helium 10 called the
Right.
Elite Group, and we have networking calls every week. And we basically have kind of a community that helps people to, troubleshoot issues. So if you feel like you're not alone, I think that really helps. When you're isolated in your own business, it can be difficult to figure things out. There's different chat groups too, like on WhatsApp for sellers. Once you start going to conferences, you'll, be able to join some of these groups where you can kind of like just network, I guess, with other sellers and just, make
Learn.
friends in the space that can help push you forward or make connections that will teach you something that'll move you forward too. That maybe it's been a roadblock for you, but they're going to teach you a way around it.
Mm.
Or you just kind of get enthusiastic about all the opportunity when you go to conferences. Like when I was in Billion Dollar Seller Summit, they did talk a lot about AI. And so it did really get me kind of motivated and excited about what we can do and how
Mm.
we can do it super quickly and to push ourselves forward. But maybe sometimes you might need to take a week break and just
Boy,
take a step back for a second and reanalyze what your goals are and put your focus on what your main goal was when you started. Because if you forget why you're doing something, then um, it can put you in a bad spot. So I think that's probably, and if you're full time, just reminding yourself that it's such a blessing to have your own business and you're not trapped in a cubicle somewhere in an office with somebody over your shoulder telling you what to do all day.
yeah.
So,
No, I love it. I think you're right. That sense of community is so powerful. And, e-commerce is a team sport and you often feel alone as an entrepreneur, but having people who are in the same journey and even ahead of you or behind, being able to help people and collaborate, these are the real life hacks that really, I think, help bring you success and keep you motivated and focused to get that dream business. So that's great. At the end of the day, this has been so helpful. I really appreciate your time here, Carrie. Again, I'm a big lover of Helium 10. So, for everyone else, there's a discount code for 30% for 12 months. We'll put a link down here in the comments of this video. We'd love you to check it out. We'll both put our emails up here too, so we'll be available for contact. Again, this is a great community. I think you're going to meet the greatest people, but for me, again, I'll edify you with the truth. I love Helium 10. I've been paying for it for almost 12 years. You guys continually improve it. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom, your experiences, and anything else you can close with here. Just give a goodbye and carry on well to our friends here in the YouTube ecosphere.
Yeah, well, also just to think this is actually a really fun business and an opportunity that's still there. So kind of just remember that it is really fun to kind of create cool products for people out there, and don't get frustrated to the point where you quit when things happen, because there's always gonna be challenges, but you can look at them as opportunities and keep growing your business.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you,
Yeah.
Carrie. It's been such a pleasure. I'll leave you here and we'll take it forward. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, you too. Bye bye.